"How's the woman, M. Leader?" asked Robo Warrior. M. Leader, after checking the woman's pulse to see if she was still alive, placed his index finger to the woman's temple and scanned her mind. "Well, they chloroformed her," M. Leader explained to the team what he saw in her memories. "These ruffians we fought are called the Red Barons. They are part of a syndicate of gangs, all lorded under someone called the Red Baron. An upstart crime kingpin, I suppose. This woman is named Stephanie Walker. She's a street reporter. She was doing a piece on the Red Baron. I guess he didn't appreciate the attention. So he sent guys in to silence her," surmised Velocity. "Yes, it would seem so," M. Leader said, appalled. "Let's see her. Miss Walker here is living at room 435 in an apartment complex 10 blocks away. Poor woman must have been coming home from her work at her news station when they jumped her. I can get her back there with no trouble," Velocity said, stepping up to pick up Stephanie Walker. "Lady will be back in her room, unaware that anything weird just happened." He was about to reach down and pick up Stephanie Walker when Shadow Knight stopped him. "Hold it," Shadow Knight said, looking down suspiciously at the sleeping Stephanie Walker. "She's a reporter woman. What if somehow she caught us on video or took a picture from a hidden camera or sound recorder on her person?" "Whoa, wait a second, man," Velocity explained. He was taken aback by Shadow Knight's question. "You can't be serious. She's just a reporter, not a super spy." "I'm not taking the risk that we could possibly be exposed and be front page of the 6 o'clock morning news or something. I have to check her," Shadow Knight said, kneeling down beside the still and silent Stephanie Walker. He began checking her jean pockets and then her coat pockets. "A hidden camera? Seriously?" Atlanta scoffed. "You gotta be putting me on. You would be amazed at how sneaky the news industry can be. Atlanta, some go to great lengths just to get a hot page and a cover story," Shadow Knight explained as he examined the woman, looking for bulges, wires, hidden cameras. "I didn't ask for your opinion," Atlanta glared. Shadow Knight ignored her. Suddenly the hero's legion began to hear the approaching in the distance sound of police sirens. "Uh-oh, we better get going," Raven said, looking in the direction the sirens were coming from down the street. "Some jerk must have called the cops to complain about the noise level of our fight with the creeps. In this city, I can guarantee that's why the cops are coming this way," Velocity said in dismay. "Nobody here calls in to report on actual crimes in progress at night." "Dude, it's almost midnight. Would you be so tolerant if a street brawl was keeping you awake at night?" asked Robo Warrior. "Touché," Velocity sighed. He had to agree with that point. "All right," M. Leader spoke. "We'll leave this woman here. The cops will show up soon. We'll let them sort out this mess out. She was knocked out during the fight, so I doubt she saw anything." "I should finish checking to see if she's wired," Shadow Knight pointed out. "We don't have time for you to play Super Detective Knight," Atlanta pointed out. "If you want to stay here and waste time looking for something that isn't here, go ahead. Last time I checked, you weren't the leader here, Atlanta," Shadow Knight added. "I could say the same about you," Atlanta added. Shadow Knight gritted his teeth. And then reluctantly he stopped what he was doing, and he went to rejoin the others. "I know I'm going to regret this," Shadow Knight muttered. "But hey, what do I know?" he said sarcastically. Macom's Dam Bridge, 3 o'clock a.m. After searching all of Harlem and finding nothing, the Legion were now heading into the eastern side of the Bronx. They had, on the other hand, managed to stop 3 drive-by shootings, 6 breaking and entering robberies, 22 aggravated assaults, and attempted murders, and some domestic problems. But they hadn't met their goal for the night, finding MetaMaster. "Well, one thing's for sure, he wasn't hiding in Manhattan," yawned Velocity. "He's got to be here somewhere," Raven assured. "If I know guys like MetaMaster, they will be up to something big, and big things have a way of not staying secrets forever. Something will come up." "Gotta love your optimism, Raven," Roper Warrior said, holding back a yawn himself. "But we've been at this all night, and so far we haven't found anything." As they were crossing the bridge into the Bronx, the Heroes Legion suddenly saw a giant fireball go off somewhere far into the neighborhood past Yankee Stadium. The Legion all looked at Shadow Knight in response. Shadow Knight rolled his eyes. "I thought we had a telepath on the team," he muttered under his breath, annoyed, and then he concentrated on his dark sense ability. "There's a firefight going on between New York cops and a gang of some kind." "Wait, well, this is interesting." Shadow Knight opened his eyes. "They have S.L.E.E.T weapons." "Where are they?" asked the M leader, realizing that they might have finally found their clue to Metamaster. "South Shakespeare Avenue," Shadow Knight answered. "And I suppose you think we should go and stop them, right?" rhetorically asked Velocity. "We've been fighting street crime and mob-level crap all night, man. Tell me this baby is flat out equipped to go against S.L.E.E.T level rocket launchers and all that other crap that was stolen." "They used a few of these babies in the war, Velocity. Time for you to see what she can really do." "I'm activating battle mode now," M leader said as he pressed a button on the dash marked battle. Outside the Falcon, still cloaked in invisibility, it began to change. An extra layer of titanium alloy armor folded out from side compartments and covered key areas of the Battle Falcon's chassis. A secondary layer of armor also covered the Battle Falcon's front door and windows, including in the front driver window, plunging the cabin into darkness. For a second, the only light that was in there were coming from the glowing red eyes of the Shadow Knight. "Well, there's one guy who'll never trip over anything in a blackout," Velocity snarked. Digital imaging activated," said the onboard computer voice, and then the darkness turned to light. As the windows of the darkened Battle Falcon came alive with digital red-colored rendered infrared images of the street outside, allowing the Legion to see outside the Falcon while the windows were protected in battle mode armor. "Damn!" Velocity said in awe. "If my tax dollars were put into funds to create this thing, I have to say they were well spent." "You said it," Robo Warrior added. He was also impressed. Cyber 29, the suit's AI, expressed his own admiration to the Falcon's capabilities from inside the Robo Warrior suit. "All right, guys, get ready for a fight," Robo M Leader warned. "This time we might have to use powers." "But what if we're seen?" asked Atlanta. Don't surface dweller streets have hidden eyes or something?" "If you mean traffic cameras, don't worry," M Leader assured. "This vehicle has onboard signal scramblers. Any traffic cameras we pass is temporarily shut down. And I have a backup plan if the cops and criminals see us use our powers." South Shakespeare Avenue, 3:10 a.m. 20 NYPD cops were hiding for cover behind their cruisers for cover against the gunfire coming from the advancing horde of Red Baron gang members who were firing on them with advanced weaponry. Sergeant Powell of the 3rd Precinct, who was the OIC, officer in charge, of this firefight, looked over the side of his cruiser and then took aim and fired. He managed to get a few shots before the machine gun on fire pinned him back down behind the side of the picket line of cruisers. He then cursed himself. When dispatch had called them in to stop a gang riot in the Eastern Bronx, they didn't think that these Red Barons would meet them with this level of weaponry. They had managed to take down a few of them, but headshots were not easy to get under machine gun fire. Where the heck did some no-account, low-level straight thugs get something like bulletproof armor, MK7 assault rifles, and, oh good God, did that one unleading them have a bazooka? "You should have stayed away, pigs!" shouted the one with the bazooka. "You follow the crank, go right into the slaughterhouse." "Are you crazy, Barons?" Sergeant Powell yelled from over the side of the cruiser. "You were just street trash before. You kill us and go on a rampage with those weapons, and you'll have the National Guard and S.L.E.E.T coming down on your ass. This is domestic terrorism. Does anyone in the U.S. even know the definition of terrorism anymore?" Laughed the Bazooka Baron, which was met with laughter from the rest of the Baron gang. "This isn't terrorism. This is just a shift in the balance of power. With these weapons the Red Baron got from his partner, we'll own this city." "You're crazy. You're all crazy," Sergeant Powell exclaimed in disbelief. "And you're all roast pig." And with that, the bazooka-carrying Baron aimed and fired his bazooka at the picket line of cops. There was a loud rumbling sound before the Baron fired his weapon, and as the rocket flew through the air, it detonated in the middle of the space between the Barons and the cops. A massive fireball erupted in the middle, but it touched neither side. As both the cops looked on in surprise, something shimmered in the middle of the ground between the two groups. The shimmering object suddenly became visible like some kind of mirage, and between the two groups emerged the now uncloaked Battle Falcon. The heavily armored side door of the incredible vehicle opened, and out emerged an angry-looking Velocity. "Guess again, gang jerks!" he declared. His outcry against the attempted murder of 34 cops was met with a response of gunfire. Hastily, Velocity closed the door and jumped back away from the opening in case that didn't stop up the hail of bullets. From inside the Battle Falcon, the hail of bullets sounded more like heavy hail than blazing death. "Damn! Cloaking and weapons are down. I can reboot it, but it will take 15 minutes, M-Leader explained why they had decloaked. "At least the shields are holding." "Oh yeah, that's real brilliant, Velocity." Atlanta chided the rash speedster. "Throw yourself in front of the men with guns. Super speed or not, you could have gotten killed if that door didn't close manually." Velocity quirked his head to the side and smiled. "Gee, Atlanta, is that concern I detect in your voice?" Atlanta groaned. "She's right," Shadow Knight said. "With those many guns out there, with that kind of bullets, anyone going through that door could be ripped to shreds. They have us pinned down. We can't open the door to escape and fight them. And even with our powers, we wouldn't last long. I could probably get out there and use my super speed to steal all their guns right from out of their hands, but they could see me open the door and they might get a lucky shot." Velocity surmised. "We need a distraction." "What about our armored friend here?" Atlanta motioned to Robo Warrior. "He could go out there and draw out their fire." Shadow Knight scratched his shin. "Good idea, Atlanta." "Well, they don't let dumbasses or novices train to be Guardian Warriors, Knight," Atlanta pointed out. "Yeah, but can Robo Warrior deal with all that firepower?" asked Raven. "Yeah, I can," Robo Warrior nodded. "And I just might be able to take a couple of them down before they know it was with my suit's weapons. Non-lethal, Robo Warrior. We need them alive to get information out of them about where they got the S.L.E.E.T weapons from," M-Leader reminded. "Tell that to them," Shadow Knight declared. "Now let's do this before these guys get brave and go around the Falcon to get the cops." With that, Robo Warrior flung the door of the Battle Falcon open and stepped out to the hail of bullets. Inside the suit, Andrew Griffin, the Robo Warrior's true identity, was conversing with the Power Armor's AI Cyber 29. "Cyber 29, can we just do the same trick we did with the guys with the guns in the alley?" Andrew Griffin asked. "Negative," Cyber 29 answered back. "These are rockets and missiles among those guns and ammo. We magnetize them, we'll also draw in the missiles. We'd probably survive, but shrapnel and wild bullets flying all over the place might hit the cops behind us, or fly off into any of the buildings, killing or injuring who knows how many. Then let's just stand here and fire what we got until Velocity does whatever he wants to do." And Andrew Griffin shrugged. The Robo Warrior suit copied his movements and shrugged as well. "Okay, let's weed out the heavies and put them all to sleep. Activate Dart shoulder cannons." The shoulders on the Robo Warrior popped open to reveal blow dart-like cannons, which then automatically targeted several gang members. In only 5 or 6 shots, 7 or 8 of them were taken down. The Red Baron in charge watched as the metallic man began making his fellow goons drop like flies amidst all the armor-piercing weaponry that so far wasn't making a dent in this armored monster's hide. The Red Baron General cursed under his breath and pulled out a "Andrew, look out! He's got a—" Cyber 29 was then caught off by a blinding flash, and Andrew felt himself flying backwards or through the air away from a massive fireball that had erupted where he stood, and he slammed right into the side of the armored Falcon. "AK-7 Cobra assault rifle," Cyber 29 finished. "Thanks for the heads up, Cyber 29, Andrew scolded. "You know, for the one who has super speed, he's sure taken his sweet dear time to deal with these guys," Cyber 29 pointed out. Robo Warrior watched as the Barons took aim again. One more direct hit might do some damage to the suit, and Andrew as well. He didn't fully know the suit's capabilities to know how much punishment it could take. when suddenly a black and gold blur zoomed in front of the downed hero and then flashed back and forth between the Barons. And as it did, the Barons' weapons disappeared from their hands. The Barons all stopped and looked at their hands now empty, wondering where their guns had gone to. Velocity dropped out of hyperspeed and reappeared in front of the downed Robo-Warrior. "You guys are in a heap of trouble," he said with no humor in his voice. "My friends and I don't take kindly to being shot at." And as if that was a sign, the door of the Battle Falcon opened up again, and out shot a mass of darkness with glowing red eyes, followed by a flying Atlanta and Raven. The Shadow Knight's shadow form slammed into the Baron who led them, the one who had the AK-47. In almost an instant, he was back in his human form, with a grip around the terrified Baron's neck. "You're mine, slime. You and I need to talk," Shadow Knight said with a glare, "about how you got these weapons and where they came from." One of the terrified goons got brave in that second and attacked Shadow Knight with his Bowie knife that he had in his jacket. Without even looking at his attacker, he reached out with his hand and grabbed the knife by the blade with his gloved hand. The goon soon found himself struggling to push the knife out of Shadow Knight's powerful grasp and into his back. Shadow Knight's mask barely could mask his sly smirk. "Bad little boys like you?" And in that second, his hand glowed with purple energy, and like an electric current, it shot down the knife and into the knife-wielding goon, and sent him flying backwards, and he landed at the feet of the other Barons. "Shouldn't bring a knife to a gunfight." With that, Shadow Knight leapt to the wall of the adjacent building of the street, with the leader of the Baron in tow, pinning the terrified leader to the brick wall of the building, and then he drew his attention to the Barons below. He drew his gun and took aim. "Fish in a barrel," he laughed. "Make a move towards the cops, and you and your friend here will be in traction." "Forget that guy," one of the Barons shouted. "Let's get the other freaks. They're just punk kids." The rest of the Barons who got brave and then drawing their jackknives, chains, and whatever they had charged at the other legionnaires. "Let's show them that we're not pushovers," Atlantis said to the others. "Or kids," Velocity added. The members beside him looked at him with disbelief. "Seriously?" "Hey, we're teenagers, not kids," Velocity pointed out. "I thought you guys would be on my side for that one." "Less talking, more fighting," Atlanta declared, before she leapt forward and laid a haymaker punch towards one of the Barons who took a swing at her with a blackjack. "You know, you guys can be so lame sometimes," Velocity groaned. He then gave a helping hand to Robo-Warrior, who then joined in the fighting with the rest of the charging Barons. "What kept you?" snapped Robo-Warrior. "Sorry, it took me a while to find a place to staff half the guns and weapons inside the Battle Falcon, where M-Leader told me to. Oh, then I had to wait to see what other surprises these guys might have had. And then I had to avoid Cobra Assault fireball heat. Moving faster than the eye can see is not an easy thing to do. Do you have any idea what happens when a fast-moving object hits a fireball? It's not pretty." Velocity snapped. All right, Robo-Warrior said, waving his right hand in silence emoting. "I don't want to argue. Just next time, watch my back a little better, okay?" "Hey, man," Velocity glared. "I wasn't aware I was supposed to even watch out for you in your Iron Man suit. I can't always be watching out for you slowpokes all the time. Next time, watch your own back better." "Yeah, sure." Robo-Warrior shook his head. "That really fills me up with confidence that I'm on a real team, because I know everybody has my back when I need it," he said sarcastically. Shadow Knight had heard all that, and his eyes glared at Velocity. He would have to talk to M-Leader about this. Velocity, Atlanta, there was a problem here. Everyone trusted the other to do their job and stay out of their way, it seemed. They didn't trust each other enough to watch each other's backs. What made him so different from them? Nothing. But could that be what could bring them together? Just like a real superhero team in the comics? Not a chance. Shadow Knight was more of a realist in terms of human nature. He didn't trust any of them, including himself. So that being said, he didn't have trust in M-Leader's faith that they could come together as a team, because who could trust someone like him? He saw what what he did as karmic retribution against all criminals, while others would call him or say he was a psychopath. And he wondered if they were right half the time. Someone who liked to be secretive and terrify the wicked, but also preferred to be alone in his crusade. He didn't want to get attached to any of them because of his disdain for loss. And he knew he had just had a luck streak and couldn't handle the responsibility for other people's lives if he failed. So he had no tolerance for failure from himself or anybody, and a drive for things to be his way or the highway. Not only that, he dressed like a trench-coated cross between the Phantom of the Opera and the Shadow. What sane man does that? He put his mind on the subject of the away and focused on the task at hand, getting information from the criminal. Now, Shadow Knight glared at the lead Baron, you're going to tell me how you got these weapons. Like hell I will, the lead Baron said, spitting in Shadow Knight's face. I ain't telling you nothing. Shadow Knight didn't talk. He then shadow formed his gloved hand around his index finger, and his exposed finger touched the skin of the man's neck. Just like always. Whenever he did this, the memories of the past few days flowed in of the person he touched, flowed into Shadow Knight's mind via his memory transfer power. Now that he had gotten it down to an art, he could sort out all the junk and just absorb what he wanted to know from his target whenever he activated this power. In a short time, he found out what he wanted. The power of memory absorption, now that he had mastered it, had a side effect: momentary disorientation. And the absorbed memory left behind a blank, sort of temporary amnesia. The guy wouldn't remember what Shadow Knight had stolen from his memory until his memory rebooted. This suited Shadow Knight just fine. After all, he was the anti-hero of the group. He had no qualms about mind tricks. He had only had a few set of rules and reservations. Everything else was fair game. Thank you for your cooperation, Shadow Knight grinned, and then with a strong toss, he sent the Baron Gang leader flying into a few of his comrades below who were busy fighting Velocity and Robo-Warrior. The slightly dazed Baron picked himself up from his fallen comrades and found himself facing down a battle Raven. He quickly got up his defenses, doing a boxing stance. Oh no freaky chick is gonna beat me! Raven's eyes flashed. Freaky chick? Not even close, bud. She then moved forward with a punch, dodged his own punch, and then uppercut him with a sneak attack punch, which sent him to the ground. Raven muttered a spell. Ars Arcanus Binamus! And chains appeared around the lead Baron from out of nowhere, manifested by her magic. Plus a muscle around his mouth, courtesy of Raven. I prefer to be called an exotically unique woman, she said with a sly smile. Suddenly Raven could sense a guy coming at her from behind with a knife trying to shiv her. But before she could turn around or even cast a spell to defend herself, a gunshot rang out. She saw her attacker get coated in miasmic sludge crystals, just inches from stabbing her with the knife. She looked up in the direction the bullet had come from to see Shadow Knight with a smoking Shadow Knight gun. She then realized what her teammate had done for her and gave a courteous smile. Oh, thanks. He nodded courteously to her and then drew his sword and started wailing on and trapping goons in miasmic cocoons with the katana. Atlanta tossed a few away before firing out her wrist darts of her Atlantean armor at the rest of the thugs in the area. When she noticed a few more Barons who had snuck away from the fighting come back around the bend of the nearby alley with their cars parked with more guns and weapons, well, she was furious. I thought you took care of them, speedster, Atlanta chided. Well, they must have had more than one crane with them, Velocity said in surprise. The Heroes' Legion paused when they heard the sound of metal clicking from behind them. They all saw the charging Barons with new guns stop in their tracks and look over at the Heroes' Legion's heads and look on in terror. Reacting to this, the Heroes' Legion turned around and looked at what the Barons were looking at from behind them. There was the battle falcon with its onboard cannons and automatic turrets online and aiming their laser sights at the chests of the gun-toting barons. M-Leader must have managed to reboot the weapon systems of the battle falcon. I suggest you lay down your weapons. Nothing you have outmatches these guns. You are beaten. Sounded M-Leader's voice from inside the battle falcon. All the remaining barons dropped their guns in fright, and a few dropped something else in their pants as well. Shadow Knight chuckled silently, taking joy out of the terror on these would-be cop killers' faces. And who says as bigger isn't better? Velocity joked. Big gun number 1 versus little boy guns over here? Maybe all these guns and weapons these slugs have are just... maybe they're just overcompensating for something, no? Killjoy. Atlanta chided almost playfully. I was just getting good. Freeze! Yelled the voice from the left side of the Heroes Legion, which was followed by the unmistakable sound of 37 guns cocking. You have got to be kidding me, Robo Warrior said. We just saved these guys and they're pointing guns at us? Welcome to the real world, Shadow Knight groaned. The one where paranoia and fear outweigh on the scale of gratitude and ignorance. That anyone being grateful for any good Samaritan saving their blue butts is as rare as someone winning the lottery. No good deed goes unpunished. For once, I'm in agreement with you, Knight. Atlanta nodded in agreement. She remembered when she had pulled that one worker from the oil refinery back in the ocean to safety, and he had called her a freak and threatened to sue her for injuries sustained during rescue. A cut on the arm. After she had saved the guy from falling from a burning death. A flippin' easy to band-aid cut on the arm. And now, after saving these cops' lives, they were aiming guns at her and her teammates. Was every human up here that she saved on this team going to thank her with guns? Not that we're not thankful, said one of the cops with his guns still aimed at the Legion, but we need you to come in to answer some questions. Drop the niceties, Powell, one of the cops said to the cop who had been talking to them before, or who was apparently named Powell. This isn't Chicago. This is vigilantism. It's illegal. And did you see what that trench coat and black hair girl did? Said another, with obvious fear in her voice. They're not normal. Yeah, said another. And that one in the trench coat is an obvious psycho. Either way, the one called Sergeant Powell scowled at his fellow officers. You kids are going to need to come with. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, all the cops froze in place, and then collapsed into unconsciousness all around the Heroes Legion. Velocity was the first to react to this strange turn of events. He zoomed out to the picket line of cops, waved a hand in front of the cop who had called them not normal, and got nothing, no response. They were all, knocked out. Frozen, or something. Okay, Velocity said warily, looking towards Raven. Was that you? No, Raven answered. That wasn't me. And it wasn't any magic either, or had I felt it. Get in the Falcon, guys, said M-Leader's telepathic voice in their heads. But for some reason, it sounded different. M-Leader, what's wrong with your voice? Asked Atlanta in concern. Just get in. I'll explain in a second, M-Leader said again. These guys will only be stunned for a few more minutes. We need to get out of here and take these weapons crates back to the mansion. The Legion did as it was told and returned to the Battle Falcon. When they entered, they saw M-Leader slumped on the dashboard of the Falcon. He seemed to be in great pain. M-Leader, Raven said in great worry, and she rushed to her leader's aid. I'm all right, M-Leader assured the young teenager. But you're bleeding, Raven pointed out. I always bleed when I push my irons like that, my dear. It's a consequence, but I'll survive, he assured. He then pushed a button on the dashboard of the Falcon. Autopilot. Engaged. Destination. Clubhouse. M-Leader said weak. The computer said. M-Leader sat down, weak. blood oozing from his nose, mouth, and nostrils. The doors of the Falcon closed. The Falcon recloaked itself, and after firing its afterburners, it sped off into the early morning darkness of the streets, heading back to the clubhouse. Inside, Raven and Velocity helped M-Leader get back into his seat. "Jeez, man," Velocity said with concern. "You look like you just went through a brawl in Jersey and went back for more. What the heck happened to you?" "Those police officers were getting antsy, and they had seen us use our powers. A couple were debating whether or not to shoot you all. The rest, however, were indeed grateful for the rescue despite being freaked out by the display of superpowers back there. So there's some plus to that. Can't risk exposure, and I told you, I had a plan if we ever had to use our powers in front of law enforcement, civilians, or anyone else. This was it." And Leader breathed heavily, regaining his health with each breath. It's called pushing. Implementing false memories or commands on a subject's brain. But doing so causes a lot of strain on my cerebellum and other body systems. Sometimes it can be very serious and potentially might be deadly if used on a whole city." And Leader explained. "You can do that?" asked him, amazed but also unnerved Robo Warrior. "It's how I kept what happened in Las Vegas a secret. I pushed in the thought that the Battle of Las Vegas was the effect, and all the damage was the effect of a gas pipe explosion, and people believed it. And I ended up in a coma for 3 months afterward, almost. Trust me, besides the painful side effects, it's not one of my favorite powers. Pushing people's minds, it's not right." And Leader said with disgust. "So you're basically a living neuralizer," Velocity surmised. "Neuralizer?" Atlanta asked, confused. What is that?" "It's from Men in Black," Raven explained. "It's a device that wipes memories. It's from a movie." "Do you always have to waste time with meaningless trivialities, Speedster?" Atlanta scoffed. "Hey, babe, it's just how I see the world, okay?" Velocity snapped. Atlanta paused. Then she looked at Raven. "Did he just call me babe?" Raven nodded. Atlanta glared at Velocity, who then flinched in apprehension to her death glare. "You better run, squirrel," Shadow Knight said nonchalantly to Velocity. He really wasn't paying attention to the conversation at hand. He was trying to ignore the banter between Velocity and Atlanta and focus on the pieces of clues he found in that Baron's head and what they meant. "Quiet down," M-Leader ordered. "Silicon is calling us back at base." "Hey guys, what's the status?" said Silicon's voice on the radio of the Falcon. "We're returning to base," M-Leader answered. "We got lucky and we found out some of the stolen weapons in their crates. A gang of hoodlums was dumb enough to carry them with them when they went to meet up to stop when we went to meet them up with them to stop them from murdering a squad of cops in East Bronx." "Well, that's great," Silicon said through the radio. "Now we can use the trackers on the guns to find the crates. And if we find the crates, we find the ship. And if we find the ship, we find Metamaster." M-Leader finished. "But I'm afraid it won't be that simple." "Why not?" asked Raven, who was behind M-Leader in the seat. "Like Velocity said, you could use the weapons to track the crates they came from." "No." M-Leader shook his head. "Metamaster would have thought of that. He would have deactivated the trackers. I don't know the S.L.E.E.T codes to activate them again." "Then we need to find this Red Baron," Shadow Knight surmised. "If he's getting these weapons from the stolen Demeter and its cargo, then he must be getting some kind of arrangement with our quarry." "But if we can't activate the trackers, what are we going to do?" Atlanta pointed out. "That makes our repossession of these stolen crates basically a useless effort." "Not necessarily," Shadow Knight said, now looking at Atlanta. "I might be able to put these useless crates and their weapons to our advantage. I happen to have a aptitude in forensics and detective work. Am I supposed to be impressed?" Atlanta said with a raised eyebrow. "As I was saying, Miss Battleaxe with an attitude," Shadow Knight ignored Atlanta's glare. "I might be able to analyze these weapons and crates for evidence, fingerprints, foreign contaminants, and the like, to find out where they came from." "How long would that take?" asked Robo Warrior. "A few days," Shadow Knight answered. "Some detective," Atlanta scoffed. "Hey, give the guy a break," Raven said in Shadow Knight's defense. Why should I? Asked Atlantis incredulously. His plan sucks. Do you have a better idea? Asked Shadow Knight. I'm all ears. Yeah, we go out and find this Red Baron guy, Atlanta answered. Make him take us to Metamaster. How? By knocking down the doors of every crook in the city until we find the right guy, asked Shadow Knight sarcastically. Well, it's better than your slow approach, Knight, Velocity chimed in. With my speed powers, I could sweep for the whole city. He zoomed to Atlanta and leaned right beside her right shoulder. And Atlanta could do, well, what she does best. And run out of juice in 12 hours of non-stop running without loading up on food and water that your body converts into energy to fuel your super speed. Brilliant plan, Shadow Knight scoffed. Also, there is no way I'd let you carry me around the city, Velocity, Atlanta pointed out and shoved Velocity off her shoulder. If you guys would all just let me finish my sentence, Silicon Voice said on the radio, I may already have a surefire way to find the Demeter. Just wait till you guys see what I've been working on, what I've cooked up. It will blow your socks off.